Welcome back to Boxing with Bart. And before anything, let me get started by saying that if you disrespect the sport of boxing, the sport of boxing will humble you and embarrass you in front of everyone. This is the case that happened with Alexis Arocha and Blair the Flair Cobbs. Now, Blair the Flair Cobbs was out there huffing and puffing and yelling to anybody out there under the sun that he was the best thing since sliced bread. And Alexis Rocha took him, beat him, and not just that, embarrassed him in a very highly entertaining fight. I'm not going to take anything away when it comes to that. Blair Cobbs is a stand-up guy. He stood there, took his beating like a man, never quit. There was no quitting on the man, but unfortunately, let's talk about what's next for Blair Cobbs. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, so the question here is Blair the Flair another boxing bum? One of those who just come around and we think that he's going to be great and then he goes downhill, even though I don't think anybody thought Blair the Flair was going to be great. But watching the fight with some friends, and they were comparing Blair the Flair to Adrian the Problem Broner, and I got to disagree with that. Adrian Broner had and has a lot of talent. The thing with Adrian Broner is that he is not dedicated to the sport of boxing. Watching Blair the Flair, he seems to be very dedicated, but he just doesn't have the tools. Again, let me rephrase that. He doesn't have the tools to be a great boxer, even a good boxer. Does he have the work ethics? Maybe he does. Does he have the heart? Yes. He checks all those boxes. The work ethics is there, as well as having a huge heart. The thing that he doesn't have is the boxing ability to be patient in the boxing ring. If you notice one thing about Blair, the minute he gets hit, he goes crazy, chin up, and starts swinging for the fences. And we all know that's a recipe for disaster. The only time that I could think of a fighter that needed to answer right back anything and everything that happened to him was Eric Morales versus Manny the Pac-Man Pacquiao in their first fight. If you remember, anything that Manny did, Morales answered back right away, went crazy, and just started throwing a lot of shots. But again, it looked that way. But now thinking about the fight, Morales had a game plan and he was able to execute it perfectly. In this case, Blair the Flair did not have a game plan. Something I was a little disappointed in the fact that his coach, Freddie Roach, I don't think they had a game plan. I think they just went out there trying to overpower the opponent and just beat the living shit out of him. Unfortunately, Alexis Rocha was tougher and better than what they thought. If you remember in the press, Blair the Flair kept on calling Rocha a bum. He kept on saying that Rocha had nothing for him and he was going to knock him out before the third round. Now we all see how that went. By the way, hopefully now Blair the Flair would go right ahead and he'll stop mimicking Ric Flair, and maybe his next character could be the Macho Man Randy Savage. Let's see how that plays around. Now let's touch on the other topic, which is Sergio Mora and the Zone and their awful announcers. Now, thanks God that Estrada, the female champ, was there to save the day. But I noticed that Sergio Mora was a little more biased, which she's already a biased announcer to begin with, but he was a little more biased than ever. And he was just overhyping Blair the Flair as if he was the best thing since sliced bread. It was disgusting. The Zone needs to make a decision. They need to stop with the whole Sergio Mora thing and hire somebody else. Maybe, and a lot of people are not going to agree with this, a Paulie Malignaggi will be fantastic there. Paulie Malignaggi is a great student of the game. one. And two, he is an outstanding announcer, even though sometimes he tends to say stupid stuff, but I'd rather deal with that than anything else. Now, Cobbs, Blair Cobbs, is basically a low budget Sean Porter, which he just goes forward trying to throw punches, trying to overwhelm his excuse me, his opponents. But unfortunately, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Nobody ever gives him credit for what he does because he deserves no credit. One, and two, he's just a clown. And unfortunately, the circus came to a halt Saturday. Blair has officially been stomped out of the division, especially what he was saying about Errol Spence Jr., which, if you don't know this, let me be the first to tell you that I'm a huge fan of Errol. It's one of my, top two pound for pounds right now. Number one, Terrence Bud Crawford. Number two, Errol Spence Jr. No secret there. But, extremely satisfied with the fight Saturday, even though Blair came to fight. I can't take that away from him. Again, he was out there throwing punches. He was trying to win the fight. Unfortunately, Rocha came with a better plan. He couldn't miss. He couldn't miss his chin even if he wanted to. He kept on tagging him with the number two. One is a jab, two is a straight punch. He couldn't miss. I've never seen such a thing. By the way, maybe it's time for Freddie Roach to call it a day. Freddie Roach hasn't had a good fighter since forever, one. And two, I think he's been exposed. I think everybody knows the way Freddie Roach teaches. I think everybody knows the simple fact that he just wants to teach aggression, go forward. Unfortunately, Roach should give it up. Seems like everyone has this number. If I was a fighter, I definitely would not go with Freddie Roach at the moment. There are so many other great fighters out there. Trainers. So many other better trainers at the moment. Now, I'm not going to blame this on Freddie Roach, what he's going through when it comes to his health or anything like that. His mind is still sharp, extremely sharp. Freddie Roach knows a lot of boxing, but I think at this very moment, he needs to reinvent himself as a trainer, a coach, because everybody has his number. Again, this was a very fun fight to watch. Unfortunately, Rocha landed some bombs on Flair's chin, and he just put him away. It was an entertaining fight. I want to thank you guys for watching this podcast. Catch you guys in the next one, and peace.